Welcome to the podcast where relationships, confidence, and determination all converge into an amazing, heartfelt experience. This is Speaking from the Heart.
Welcome back to episode number 170 of Speaking from the Heart. Today we have Monica Mangelson with us. And Monica is a certified life purpose coach, full-time world traveler, adventure junkie, and a total foodie. She is on a mission to help people live more intentionally and have more fun in the process. And I gotta say, with this foodie, it's really interesting to hear so many different types of people on this show that have spanned from traveling overseas, traveling back to have so many different types of conversations with my counterparts here in the United States. But Monica brings something to the table that many people I haven't had on the show really do. Traveling as a digital nomad, learning how to grow, providing that context, that connection, that comfortability, and really finding that engagement, that connection with somebody that, as much as they want to help you share that perspective that you really want to dive deep into, you will find that person. They will love you for who you are and willing to go on that adventure, which I talk a little bit with Monica about how it is to live a life of flexibility and also not knowing where you're going to go to next. It's been something that I have been following on their podcast, not only because of the neuroscience mindset that she talks about, but also pushing that awareness, understanding that our batteries can drain, but we got to wake up to the outside world that is around us. And by doing that, by multiplying successes and opportunities together, we can create an infinite number of different types of opportunities that are at our disposal. And for that reason, I can't wait for you to hear the very end of this podcast because there is just so much that Monica shares that we're going to unpack. Get your suitcase ready because this is the time in which you're going to learn not just ways in which you can get more comfortable, but how you can be packed and ready to go anywhere in your life. But with that, let's go to the episode. All right, we're here with Monica Mangelson. Monica, thanks for sharing your heart with us today.
Of course, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me on your show.
I am so happy too. You were one of those people that reached out to me like months ago, and then I forgot, and then I remembered because you responded to a group that I have been getting a lot of my guests from, the Need a Guest Facebook group, which for my listeners, it's a great opportunity to learn a lot about different people on there and get them for shows if you're interested or even speaking events. So thank you for reminding me. And I'm so sorry. I feel like I have to speak from the heart right away to you for that reason. But
no worries. You know what? I'm a big believer that things happen when they were supposed to. And you know that I've just been through a huge business transition. And so I feel like this is the perfect time.
And that's what I love about it is that there's always divine timing that's involved with it. So
absolutely.
Thanks for doing this with me. I actually want to set the scene for my listeners, which heard a little bit about you already, but I was really drawn to your story because of your partner and what you also do in terms of your lifestyle. So I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that at a high level and why that is such an appealing process for you. Because I'll be honest, there aren't many people I know personally that live the lifestyle that you do. So why don't you share that with our listeners?
Yeah, of course. So my partner and I are full-time digital nomads. So basically what that means is we both work online and we travel anywhere we can get a Wi-Fi signal. So we've lived in the States, out of the States, in Asia, South America, all over the place. And it's just been such a fun experience for us to really dive into other cultures, to learn more about ourselves, to become stronger together as a relationship. We've had to rely on each other a lot. But I have to say, the thing that I love the most about the digital nomad lifestyle is that you are constantly reinventing yourself. And so you don't really ever have the chance to live on autopilot because you're always somewhere new with new stimulus and new challenges and trying to figure out where the grocery store is or how do you get toilet paper in this place? Do they even have toilet paper? And so it's such a cool way to always be reinventing yourself, but always to be taking life 1 minute at a time. And so every time we go somewhere new, we get to stop and say, what do we need right now in this phase of our life? And just move forward with that decision. And we just live really intentionally since we have started living this lifestyle.
I felt that when I was reading a little bit about this, which for my listeners, I'll have Monica's website on the episode notes. I found it really interesting. It's something that I wanted to do right out of college, which is to go to the Peace Corps. So Austin, your significant other, and you both decided to do that. So what ultimately led to the decision that you wanted to serve in the Peace Corps?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of things. I think one was we really didn't want to go do more schooling and we really didn't want to go work in an office yet. We needed more of an adventure. We had both lived abroad separately before we met each other, and so we kind of had that taste for it. And originally, what our plan was to teach English. And at first, we were going to teach English in China for a semester. And then we got jobs actually in Thailand teaching English. And then that fell through last minute. And so, talk about divine timing. When we found out that the Thailand jobs were falling through, we were in the library of our school. I was devastated. I was so excited to live in Thailand for a year to teach English. I don't know why I thought I could teach if I can't even speak it, but this guy next to us was like, hey, you should go check out the Peace Corps. Actually, they're here at a career fair right now, and you have about half an hour left before it closes. So we booked it over there and instantly just got hooked and fell in love with the program. We went through the whole application process. We got assigned to Mozambique to work in HIV and malaria prevention and awareness, working with the youth. So we were really, really excited about that.
But then the dreaded 5-letter word, COVID, changed everything. I think that might have been, speaking of divine timing, which we were talking about earlier, I found that maybe that happened for a reason because of what you said. You're doing what you're doing now, being digital nomads, and you're able to live a lifestyle that is not tethered. So for you, I'm really curious about this because I think for some people, when they hear digital nomads, they're thinking, oh, so you're just living, on an RV, you're traveling around, or you might be hopping on a plane, you're in hostels, or you're in some sort of living arrangement. Tell us how that sort of works for you on the day-to-day basis. Do you make this decision that you're going to go to another country? Is there planning involved? Tell us a little bit about how that all comes to be, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot, but Austin and I both really like nice things. And so I think that's surprising for a lot of people when it comes to thinking about digital nomads. You do think of the RVers or the super minimalist kind of people. And we are pretty minimalist, but we do really like nice things and we like to live in nice places. And our journey has evolved quite a bit. If you had asked me this question a year or even 2 years ago, I probably would have been like, yeah, we plan everything out. We book everything in advance. We book our flights. We know where we're going to be, how long we're going to be there. And it's changed quite a bit as we've kind of eased into the lifestyle. So now it's a lot more spontaneous, and that drives our parents crazy. That drives our families crazy, is because they can't ever keep track of us because we don't know where we're going to be next. So we really kind of take it as it goes. The biggest thing we look for is visas, how long we can stay in a country will determine. We always like to stay in a place longer if possible. So 1 to 3 months is kind of our sweet spot because we really like to integrate into the culture, into the place we're in, know all the local spots. We're not tourists. We are living in these different places, although we do touristy things and enjoy that. And so then we'll book an apartment, and typically we use Airbnb just because we know it's reliable. We can find really good housing. We can find really comfortable housing and kind of vet it because it's really important that we have Wi-Fi wherever we're going since we are working online. That's kind of our lifeline. And then from there, we just we'll hop around. We'll talk to lots of people and they'll be like, we'll be in Peru and they'll be like, oh my gosh, you have to go to Chile. So we're like, okay, let's go to Chile. That'd be so fun, and we just kind of fly by the seat of our pants.
Do you feel that it creates some tension sometimes working with clients then because you are traveling all over the place? I imagine first off, the time zone differences every time that you go to a different country can be impactful. But I'm wondering too, how do you balance that from a work perspective? Because obviously I imagine that you're trying to help them out with what they're trying to do, which if you don't mind even sharing in general what that is that you usually provide as a level of service, I'm sure listeners would love to hear that too. But how does that impact your ability to be able to stay focused with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it has been a learning curve for sure. All of our clients have been super great. None of them have cared if we're in the country or out of the country. Time zones has been the biggest pain in the butt because we think we have it right and then our Google Calendar like affirms that for us and then we're wrong and then we have missed meetings before or different things like that, but everyone we work with is super understanding. And I think a big reason for that is because we are very open and honest about, hey, we just traveled across the world and we're 14 hours behind and I'm so sorry. And so all of our clients have been very, very gracious with us. They've been super good about being open and honest with us and just letting it be okay, being flexible. And I really think a big part of that is because it's the culture that we've worked to create within our business, within our clients, and things like that. So I guess high level of what I do, I am a life purpose coach, which has shifted a little bit, but that's currently like where I'm at. So I love helping clients with one-on-one calls. We jump on a call and we talk about their goals and what kind of life they want to live and how to set themselves up for success within that life. Austin has recently pivoted. He is actually going to school right now. So that's a little bit of an unknown factor right now is because he's working to become a data analyst. And so he'll probably be working for a company. And so we're hoping his goal is to be fully remote, but he might have more specific hours that he has to clock in and clock out. Whereas me with my clients, I have specific call days. And so the time zones are a little bit easier because I can stay up really late that one day on my call day if I need to, or wake up early on that specific call days, not every day of the week, where he might not have that kind of time flexibility. So that's a little bit of a question mark for us right now.
As somebody that has been in the data analytics field, because I've continued to work a full-time job, and one of my past jobs was doing data analytics, let me tell you, there is some flexibility. Data does not go away or scurry around in the corner. So I think Austin will have a lot of flexibility. So I'm really super excited to hear that, even though that's quite a transition, even as of the time of this recording for you. I know that down the road, it's going to all work out. And I think it might even give you some benefits too, for sure.
Yeah, thank you. I needed to hear that because there are moments where I get really nervous.
Well, this is my moment where I get the coach and I get to tell you it's going to be okay.
Thank you.
Speaking of coaching, one of the things that why we have this sort of connection, full disclosure for my listeners, and I even said this to Monica, I've been following a little bit of their own podcast because you both have a couples podcast. It's called the Profitable Nomad Couple Podcast. So I was wondering how you got started with that. And I'm scratching my head because I've always stayed where I'm at, stationary with recording this. I haven't taken it on the road or even done this remotely with other people other than using technology, kind of like I use now to help record these. So how do you go about recording episodes? Because I know most of them in the beginning for you were just Austin and you, but you've also incorporated guests. So I'm kind of curious how you make that all happen. To let us know a little bit of the magic that happens in the background, if you don't mind.
The magic in the background. Yeah, we're really good packers. And so you'll be amazed what we can fit in a carry-on, especially because we normally travel with just like backpacking backpacks. You would be amazed what we could fit in there. So our setup is super light, which is really helpful. And then the biggest issue, again, has been time zones. And so we'll have stints that we're in the States. Like for right now, at the time of this recording, and actually probably the time of this release, we are going to be house sitting in Colorado. And so while we've been in the States, we booked a ton of guest interviews. And so we actually have our guest interviews scheduled out till like March of next year.
Wow.
So, yeah, we just take advantage of the time that we have.
Wow. I sort of do something similar and a little bit of the curtain behind too for my listeners. I do this in groupings too, where I might have 6, 7 weeks that I'm just completely booked with podcast interviews, but that will extend throughout several months at a time. But wow, to have that many, I'm impressed. That just shows the power that you're projecting and the messaging, which I highly encourage. I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about what you share on the podcast too, in case any of my listeners like to check you out too?
Oh, of course. Podcasting is my favorite part of the business, to be honest. I'm such a talker. I love meeting new people. I love sharing my story. I love doing it with Austin. It is so much fun. So like you said, we are the Profitable Nomad Couple podcast. And the first kind of season, the first chapter of our podcast was very much about the digital nomad lifestyle. It was about how to market yourself online, how to start an online business, and about that mindset piece. But as we kind of were going about and doing our podcast and figuring out our next step, our big pivot, the big thing that I realized going forward is that anybody can teach you business. But the thing I kept working with my clients on was their mindset, to believe in themselves, to feel like they had a purpose in life. And so now, chapter 2 of the Profitable Nomad Couple podcast is specifically on mindset things. I am a big neuroscience nerd, and so it's all like neuroscience based. And so, yeah, we have a lot of that. Travel is just such a big part of who we are, and so is business. And so that'll come up as well.
I love the science aspect. I had somebody recently that was on the show that talked about not just from the coaching perspective, but also how to take the science behind it to help somebody, the biology, the chemistry, to really shift that mindset. So I'm kind of curious because when we hear people say, even for us coaches, we say, we're going to change your mindset. We're going to help you do that. And we're going to walk you through that. They're like, oh, brother, I don't really want to do that whatsoever. There's just another person saying that they can do that. What makes you different from, say, somebody else that is saying the same thing that they're able to do? What do you think you bring to the table that maybe somebody else doesn't, that would help them with changing that mindset? And I'm really anxious to hear this answer because of what you've shared so far, because I feel like there's some power behind this.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. I feel like the biggest one is that I am very neuroscience based. And so I really lean into like the research of neuroplasticity. How can we actually affect change in your life? How can we change just the smallest things to change habits, which have the biggest impact in your life? The other thing is, I am very focused on helping people lean back into their intuition. I don't have the answers for everybody. But I know that everybody has their own answers, and I am very good at helping you figure out what that is. I'm very good into helping you tune back into your own intuition, into your own gut feeling, and then be able to use that to make the decisions that will be best for you in this moment.
Based on that, and based on the world that you've seen thus far, what do you say is something that we're lacking here as people that live in the United States or say another country for that matter? Because I know you obviously meet other people with your
Mhm.
travels. What do you think is the key ingredient that we're missing outside of just the neuroscience component? Meaning, is there something that you've seen common amongst your clients that maybe you have seen that maybe even if you said today to me, even for that matter, hey, Josh, I don't know you at all, but maybe this is one thing that you could look at. What would that one thing be? And I know I'm kind of pigeonholing you in just one. So if there's more than one, please share the wealth.
Yeah, I mean, as you were talking, I instantly had two things pop into my head, so I'll share those two. The first and the most important one is just a level of self awareness, of mindfulness, of taking the time during the day to pause and notice your surroundings. Americans are so busy, it's ridiculous. But anywhere else that I have gone outside the country, I mean, I've done meditations with Buddhist monks in the temples in Thailand. I have gone out to small villages and been with families. And it's just so interesting how everyone has this level of awareness. They see what's going on around them. They see the flowers that are blooming. They see the people next to them struggling. And then they also take more time to reflect on themselves and what's going on and how they can be better help. And of course, that's a big generalization. There are obviously people who don't have that same level of mindfulness, but the people that do are the people who make a difference. They're the ones where you're sitting on the bus and they notice that you look lost and they're like, hey, how are you? And they want to start a conversation and they want to help you versus the people who are on their phones. And the people who have that level of mindfulness and awareness are by far so much happier
Hmm.
because they are noticing, they're stopping and smelling the roses, as cliche as that is. They are noticing the people around them, they are noticing the things around them. And then they are taking time to reflect on that and to kind of internalize the things that they're seeing and learning every single day. So if I could just like blanket spread across the United States, like one thing that I wish everybody had was that same level of intentionality and mindfulness as they go about their day.
Let's turn that question around and apply it
Mhm.
to you. So,
Yeah.
with intentionality and mindfulness, Has there been a point in your life that maybe you didn't have that, but then all of a sudden the switch came on, which led you into this adventure that you have been on with Austin?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So after the Peace Corps kind of shut down, I mean, at that point, we had sold our housing contract. We'd sold most of our stuff. Everything was in suitcases. We were ready to go. We were 2 weeks out from leaving when COVID shut everything down. And so we packed everything in our little Mazda and we drove to California and we moved in with Austin's parents, who were so kind and gracious to take us in for what ended up being a really long time. And then while we were there, we were waiting for the Peace Corps to come back and tell us that we could go again, that we could live our lives again. And so we got dead end jobs. And I worked in senior healthcare, which is a really hard job.
It is a hard job. My mom has done even long-term care when she was working, so I understand completely. Yeah.
Yeah. It was extremely hard. I was extremely overworked. I thought this was going to be short term, so I did not set very good boundaries, and I was working 15-hour days a lot of times. I was not getting home until 1 or 2 in the morning, and then Austin would get up for his shift at 6 in the morning, and so we would never see each other. I was literally just surviving, just trying to make it through the day. And then the weekends would come, and I'd be really excited for the weekends, except I'd have no energy to enjoy it. And so I spent a lot of time on the couch, a lot of time watching Netflix. And I lived like that in this state of just surviving, just trying to get through the day, just trying to get to the weekend, which I didn't even have energy to enjoy. And I just felt like I was a battery that was charging less and less and less every night. And I was just slowly draining. And I put on a ton of weight during that time. I just felt so empty. And I was so angry. And I'm not an angry person. And I'm like generally a very happy person. And I just wasn't. I was a shell of who I was. And there came a time when the Peace Corps was like, oh, 2 weeks. And then they were like, oh, like a month, 2 months, 3 months. And then we stopped hearing from them. And there became a time, I think it was about 9 months in, where we got an email from them and they were like, oh, it's been so long, you have to reapply. You have to redo all of your certifications, all of your medical things. And it broke me. I was so frustrated. And I went on a 2-hour walk that day and just like bawled. And I was so angry. And I just like, why did this happen to me? We wanted to serve. Our hearts were in the right place. I really, really felt aligned with the Peace Corps. I had this kind of big come to Jesus moment almost when we signed up for the Peace Corps. And I was just like, why was I led astray in this way? And that was what broke me. And that was when I was like, you know what? I have been waiting for 9 months in literal hell, waiting for somebody to tell me I could live my life again. And I'm angry all the time. I have gained like 50 pounds over COVID during this time. And I was like, I never go outside. I'm a fraction of the person that I used to be. And I just realized that I was done living on autopilot. I was done living for anybody else. And that's when slowly I began to make these changes and start a business and start traveling and start eating better and all the things.
You remind me so much of what my journey has been and my listeners that have been following along with me, even on this journey, which I've shared briefly with you about even getting to this point. It reminds me so much of what I've struggled with: overeating, not feeling like I was worthy of what I had been given, the imposter syndrome sometimes too, that I don't deserve to have this.
Mhm.
But it sounds to me that COVID realized for you that this was indeed your calling, that this was what you were meant to do. Is that fair to say?
I believe it was the start of it. It has been probably a 2-3 year journey to get to where I am today, to fully be like, this is why I'm here. This is my calling. This is my purpose.
With that said, with those 2, 3 years to get to where you are today, which I mean, I'm impressed by just looking at your website, how you carry yourself here. It just shows that you have been putting that hard work in. How does that reflect with who you work with? To you, if there was somebody that you really wanted to work with to help them see that best version of themselves, as I call it, but I know you don't call it that, how do you get them to see that bigger picture, that the hard work that they do does pay
Mm.
off?
Yeah, my favorite people to work with are the people who are kind of having what I call this waking up moment in their life where they're like, oh my gosh, I've put in years of schooling and thousands of dollars of schooling and or into this job and I've been climbing the ladder and I've been doing everything right and I hate it. we're kind of put on this fast track, like from the time we're little. Go to school, and then you go to high school, and then you go to college or a trade school, and then you get a job, and then you start at the bottom and you work your way up and you climb this ladder and you get a house and maybe you get married, maybe you have some kids. And that's kind of this fast track we're put on. And we're never given a time to breathe and just ask ourselves what we actually want. And so it's the people who have been climbing that ladder, who've been following that path. And like I said, they have all the things, the outward things, and they're just not happy. And it just leaves them wondering if there's not more out there for them. Those are the people that I love working with. And I love helping them start to strip away the societal pressures and their familiar pressures and things like that people have kind of superimposed onto them, to really strip down into who am I as a person and what do I need? What is my purpose here? What am I passionate about? And then help them start to reinvent their life based on that.
What's next for you in terms of this adventure? Because you even said earlier, there's been a seismic shift just because of some of the dynamics, even in your own business. What do you feel is the focus based off of that? Because it sounds like that is where you're heading towards, but is there more to it? Is there a bigger, broader vision to become the best version of who you are, Monica?
Oh, yes. Yes, for sure. I'm a visionary, so I always have a vision of where I'm going. But one of the things that I actually have just started implementing, which I'm very excited about, is hosting retreats. I want to bring people with me to travel and have this transformational experience. And I want to bring them a community of people who just are learning how to love themselves and learning how to reinvent themselves. So I'm hosting my first retreat in February, which I'm very excited about. And the other thing that I really want to do is to be on a stage. I want my impact to be amplified. I remember as a kid going to speeches in several different capacities, both in school, out of school, and those speakers changed my life more than I ever could have known. It stirred something in me, and I'm recently getting to this point where I'm like, I want that. I want to be able to amplify my impact from a stage. So those are the two things that I've been really working towards implementing into myself and also into my business.
I'll tell you, as someone that does public speaking coaching for a living too, that it is possible with even the people that go up there and do some amazing work with their audience. It's all about what your purpose is at the end of the
Mhm.
day. And the way that you even said today, like I'm literally sitting here and I'm like kind of having this oasis form in my head of what would be the perfect type of getaway of not only opportunity that's outside of where my bubble is right now, but also where is yet to explore. And I hear that energy from you. I
Mm.
find it to be something that is really needed, especially for people that sometimes get stuck. And trying to get unstuck is the biggest part of that.
Mm. Mhm.
To ask one final question, because we're almost at the end of our time, what would you say to someone, especially with everything that you've done thus far and even what you have yet to go? Because I mean, I look at you and you got so much more life to go, even for you and everybody else that you have yet to serve. What is one thing that you would recommend for somebody that maybe is interested in stepping outside of that comfort zone that they've been living in, doing this quote unquote right things, which I like that because sometimes we think what is the right thing isn't necessarily the right thing. So what would be one way, Monica, for people to kind of take that first step to see that bigger
Yeah.
picture? What do you think?
I think the very first step is to just allow yourself to dream bigger. I mean, you got to this point by letting everyone else tell you what your dreams needed to be. And at one point, maybe it was your dream, but allowing yourself, like, what if there was more? Or my favorite question, I know a lot of people are like kind of teetering on the edge and they're like, oh my gosh, what if I fall? But what if we start asking ourselves, what if I fly? What if everything went so well, so perfectly, better than we could ever imagine? What would life look like? And as you start to let go of your inhibitions a little bit and let yourself dream, you're going to find that there's such a beautiful picture. There's such a beautiful life waiting for you just on the other side. But it all starts with that first step of letting yourself imagine that it could be the best thing ever.
Definitely can be. And working with people that have done that can make such a big difference. So, Monica, I really appreciate this. I really appreciate getting to know you. I feel like I've known you from afar, but now I'm getting to talk to you today. It was really great. I want to give you the last few minutes here to pitch your business. If people are interested in contacting you, maybe they want to get some coaching from you. Maybe they want to learn a little bit more about you in Austin. Maybe they want to listen to the podcast. Maybe you want to give it one more shot of just referencing that and where people can find that too. But I'm going to give you the last few minutes to do all that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like we've already talked about, the podcast is my favorite thing about business. I love giving free advice. So the best way you can kind of like scratch the surface, over level, get to know me, also Austin and our journey would be the Profitable Nomad Couple podcast. Literally anywhere you get your podcast, you can find it. And then if you want to know just general information about me, austinandmonica.com is my website. Instagram is my favorite place to hang out, Instagram and Facebook. So Instagram as well, at Austin and Monica. We were really original with all of our handles. And then Facebook, come hang out with me. I have a Facebook group called the Freedom Frame of Mind, Escaping the Daily Grind. So it's super fun. I do tons of trainings in that Facebook group all the time. It is such a powerhouse community of amazing people who are doing amazing things and reinventing themselves over and over and over again. And I have people from all over the world in that group. It is a blast. I love that group. So come hang out with me there. And then, of course, I would be amiss if I didn't invite you all to come to Colombia with me in February. It is a self-love meets adventure retreat. So we're going to be kayaking, we're going to be paddleboarding, we're going to be snorkeling, we're going to be going on sunset tours, we're going to be having bonfires with live music. But then we're also going to have the slower part where we're going to be doing restorative yoga, and we're going to have massages on the beach, and we're going to have a private chef who is cooking really nutritious and delicious meals. So definitely come join me in February. That's February 2nd through the 6th. It'll be a blast, and I cannot wait to hang out with you all.
Sounds like a great birthday getaway for me, since my birthday month is in February. It might be something I need to even think
Yes.
about.
Oh my gosh, come. That'd be so fun.
But I have to say to you that you are your own little country. I don't know if you even realize it or not, but you're creating this culture in that country that you're forming of all the possibilities. And I find that the life that you're living with Austin, this digital nomad life, sometimes I've heard in the news of like, oh, that's not possible to do. It's ridiculous that people would ever think that way. Well, you're proving that wrong. And I love that you're pushing back on the status quo. I love that you're challenging not just what everybody thinks that we should be doing, but also what we could be doing. And that's what we should be doing, that we can have this freedom in our lives. And regardless of what we might think it is, it means that we have to look at it from a variety of different perspectives, which for you, I gotta say, you got many different perspectives being a world traveler. So with all those kudos behind you, Monica, thanks for being on Speaking from the Heart today. I really enjoyed having you on the show, and thank you for enlightening me and my listeners about everything that you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. It's been a genuine pleasure to be here with you.
I want to thank Monica again so much for being part of the show. But there's one footnote that I have to tell all of you, my listeners, about this podcast episode, in which some things changed after Monica was on the show, in which we recorded this a few months ago. Monica has since then rebranded her podcast, no longer being called the Profitable Nomad Couple Podcast, but to now be called Notes from a Neuro Nerd. I'm going to put that link in the episode notes so that you have that, but I want to just leave that with you because even then, Monica has rebranded herself into this awesome powerhouse, but the conversation that we had today is still just as relevant, still just as impactful, and has so many different things that I want to unpack. So let's get into it. Traveling with all these different types of people, all these different types of connections that we can form throughout the world, makes us even have a stronger connection with ourselves, even our partners, when we are able to branch out and explore what is all around us. Having that new connection, finding new material, having plans that allow us to surround those opportunities can really be an effective tool. And I love that no matter where Monica is at, even with her partner, Austin, they are able to make this work. They are able to find ways, regardless of where they are, to help serve their clients. But it's really about doing the nice things to be able to do that. You have those nice things when you go around the world, being able to figure out where you might want to go next. Where is that destination? But also having that feeling of comfort, no matter where it is happening, wherever you go, whether that is an Airbnb, whether that is in some place that you've never been before. Being able to have that kind of engagement with your life is something that most people would absolutely dream about to be able to find, to be able to have that flexibility. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, can we be more flexible in living that kind of life? I think Monica really talked a lot about how she's able to do it, but I also know that she talked about how some people might not be able to do that. It doesn't mean that there's a yes or no to this, but that there's different ways in which you can go about it. Freedom in itself comes in all kinds of different forms. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be packing up all my belongings, closing down your speaking voice, and going completely digital. No, no, no. I want to be doing that for myself because that's just not my level of freedom. But that doesn't excuse the fact that everybody has a different way in which they approach it. But I love that Monica talks about how you can pack super light, be able to be not only open to these kinds of opportunities, but how you can shape your mind, your perspective around them. And that's really the key, is that you have to find engaging opportunities to be able to pursue them. You have to be able to do your homework, do the research, be able to go with the flow. And sometimes that flow, even with some of the things that she's talked about, might not always work out for themselves. But this belief about mindset, being able to change, is a science within itself. And it's something that Monica has really invested a lot of time in, and I can understand why she pivoted the podcast, why she's pivoting many different parts of her coaching business into something that I love about why we're able to change our habits, how we can change our intuition about things that we have normally thought this is the only way to do it, but to also unlearn some of those experiences. We've had plenty of people that have talked about this concept on the show, but nothing quite in depth like Monica has shared today. That self-awareness, knowing and seeing what matters the most, is the hardest thing that might be covering our eyes, might be covering our perspective, being able to see what's on the other side. But how we bring that awareness, how we create that perspective, means that we have to learn how to create things that help us. We have to create habits that are not only good for us, but the things that surround those habits are really what's key. Are the short-term sacrifices that you're willing to do really able to get you to where you need to be? When we're trying to do the same thing and we're trying to do good for our families, for ourselves, for other people, over and over and over again, we start to see the batteries drain. We start to see how we cannot have a life for ourselves because we're not living with purpose. We're not living with intentionality. We're not able to get to that other side. Here's something you can do. Wake up. Wake up. Yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say is wake up. Listen to it. Listen to what's inside your heart. Listen to what is actually inside of you. That means that you might have to go into that sort of trance, thinking about what it has been, what it has looked like when you saw success for the first time. We all have experienced success in one way or another. But living outside of that bubble means that we have to be able to take a step outside of what we're in. Means that we have to escape what my therapist calls the warm, squishy stuff that we're usually surrounding ourselves with and stepping outside of our comfort zone. There's no script when we do that, and I know that's what makes us very fearful of it. That's why we have to wake up. If we're ever going to achieve the gains that we really want to do, it means that we have to stop doing the same things that we do over and over and over and over again because we think that every time that we do it, we're going to get rewarded. But we're not getting rewarded. We're getting punished. We're getting punished by the fact that we have that thought that is limiting, that is putting us in that silo. Hosting retreats, surrounding yourself with a community, maybe impacting others, It could be as simple as a game night in which my best friends would often put on that can help us escape the reality that is surrounding us. That's right. Being able to just simply do something different, whether it's hanging around the pool, being able to enjoy the weather that's outside, although it's going to be winter very soon here in the United States, or even trying to do something with somebody, with a group of people that you have never done before. To multiply your successes means that you have to first multiply your opportunities to fly. Being able to see yourself dream of that picturesque view, being able to sit at a beach, being able to interact with a culture that might be foreign to you. And if we go all the way back to my earlier episodes with some of my international guests, more importantly, Mark Snow, you'll start to see that when we are able to live outside of our comfort zone, living outside of our own culture, we're able to dream. We're able to create that picture that we always thought we could always create. Earlier this week in my monologue, I talked about how we can share our story to others. This is a prime example of how Monica and Austin, both of them, have been able to live that dream. And now Monica, more than ever, is able to share those perspectives based on neuroscientific approaches that we can change our brain waves, our brain patterns, to find plans that help us create that connection with others by simply doing something that we never thought we could ever do, travel. Now, before you blow up my inbox at podcast@yourspeakingvoice.biz, which I'm always willing to take some email requests of some future episodes or even some potential guests, I know what you're going to tell me. When am I ever going to have the time to do something like this? When am I ever going to find the money? How could you say that I can do all these things when I have all these responsibilities, Josh? I can't dump these on other people, let alone my family, friends, and others. But doing the nice things, doing the things that we really want to do in our life means that we have to experiment. And it means that we have to start small to see what might work or might not work, to be able to create that culture in order for us to create those goals so that we can achieve that flexibility, so that we can live a life that might be a nomad or might be something else. It might even mean that you have to believe in a mindset that changes your self-awareness, that changes the perspective of what sacrifice looks like in your life. Ladies and gentlemen, it's quite simple. If you're willing to wake up and change who you are and have that self-actualization that we've talked about with Maslow's hierarchy needs on many different types of episodes, if you're able to live outside the bubble that you live in today, I guarantee you will see a risk, but you will also see a reward if you're willing to see it through every single day. Failure is sometimes going to happen, and that's okay. I can't tell you how many times I failed until I finally got myself onto this show, got myself into this podcast, and have been so rewarded by both of those ventures to create this opportunity that we now have, which now I'm even expanding even further into the horizon with many new services that I've already talked about in this show, including developing your own podcast, fractional coaching, and now heading into the blogosphere, which I will be starting to write more about these experiences on my website, www.yourspeakingvoice.biz, under the blog section that is now newly created. But the thing is that all these opportunities, these creations that Monica has even mentioned today, means that you have to learn how you can expand your mind, how you can live in an Airbnb for a few weeks and get comfortable with who you are, changing that routine. And sometimes it starts small, and sometimes you might not get that buy-in. But I will tell you, that buy-in that you don't get, the negativity that you hear, is all the voices, all the reasons why you can't do it. If you're able to form a plan that will change those perspectives, if you can create that connection with other people, if you are able to find that awareness inside yourself to say that this is when it ends and a new beginning begins. That in itself will make you not only brainier, not only smarter, but I think that you're going to have some of the most amazing experiences yet to come. Regardless if you think that it's going to happen today, tomorrow, 5 years, or 10 years down the road, know that no matter where you might be, no matter where you might reside, no matter where you'll put your hat at the end of the day, there's no place like home. But home is where your heart is. And I can't wait for you to find your heart when you speak out loud, sharing it with others, of what amazing opportunities are yet to come, just because you changed your habits. Thanks for listening to episode number 170 of Speaking from the Heart, and I look forward to hearing from your heart very soon.
Thanks for listening. For more information about our podcast and future shows, search for Speaking from the Heart to subscribe and be notified wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit us at www.yourspeakingvoice.biz for more information about potential services that can help you create the best version of yourself. See you next time.